Typically, video games allow you to go at your own pace. Whether you want to take your good old sweet time, go as fast as humanly possible, or however else you find the games enjoyable. These types of games usually contain game-breaking glitches, which are normally used to optimize paths and speedruns. So naturally, game developers thought, what if we scrapped all of that? On December 6, 1996, Sony would publish a game to the public known as Parappa the Rapper, which was developed by a Japanese company known as Nana Onsha. And
when I say boom, 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 you say bam, 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 no pause in between, come on, let's check.
Yeah. Putting aside the paper-thin models in this game and the questionable plot, this game is actually pretty straightforward. There's a bar at the top of the screen that has a series of buttons on your PlayStation controller, and when Parappa's icon is right above it, you hit the corresponding button. This simple mechanic became the core of every future rhythm game and definitely ramps up in difficulty in the later stages. Even before Parappa, there was a game called Dance Aerobics, and although this was the first dance game, not rhythm game, there was a game mode called Tune Up, in which the player can create music by stepping on specific buttons on the Nintendo Power Pad. This seemingly inspired the next major rhythm game, which was none other than Dance Dance Revolution. But before I get more in depth about the history of these games, I still need to tell you about how they work. Here, let's go through it step by step. This here is called a note. These types of notes contain an invisible line underneath the model that tells the game where the note is. These over here are shape receptors. They act as indicators on when to hit the notes. Indicators can come in all types of forms, such as tiles you have to run across, a circular line where you have to align the notes accordingly, or a combination of a line going up and down a screen and a circle inside the notes. Like I said, there's a lot of different forms. In whichever form they're in though, indicators typically have a line that you're supposed to align the notes' line with. However, as you can see right here, sometimes you can't exactly hit the mark just right, which is why there's a thing called timing windows. A timing window is a radius around the receptor's lines that kinda acts as a safety net, which allows for some leniency on hitting notes. If you look here, you can see that if he had hit the notes right here, it would have still counted as a hit. However, he waits until it's as close to the receptors as possible and then hits the notes. Why? Well, there's also this thing called judgment windows. You see, judgment windows are subsets of the timing window and determine the accuracy that you got for hitting that note. For example, on default settings, if you hit the note between 18 milliseconds early and 18 milliseconds late of the receptor's line, you would have gotten the best judgment. If you hit 43 milliseconds within the line, you would have gotten a perfect, the second best judgment, and so on and so forth. Now this is all cool and all, but what if the music is offbeat with the notes in the chart? Then what do I do? Well, for that, there's this thing called offset. Offset does, you guessed it, offsets either the notes in the song or the audio from the song. Visual offset helps with screen latency and moves where the note is visually. However, it does not actually change where the note is, it only changes what you see. Audio offset moves the actual audio of the song to either help with audio latency in your speakers or headphones, or can be used locally on individual maps. Ah god, I've wasted a lot of time. Alright, time for a lightning round. Dance Dance Revolution is a game where you use your feet to press buttons as they approach the shape receptor. This game invented the classic 4-key style of rhythm games, and people usually stand behind them for quicker movement and balance. Taiko no Tatsujin was an arcade game that involved the drum, but was released on the Switch recently. You hit circular notes called dons, red notes, which are hit by hitting the center of the drum, and kas, blue notes, which are hit by hitting the edges of the drum using drumsticks. Guitar Hero involves using a guitar to hit notes either by strumming the strum bar when strum notes appear, or tapping the 5 frets on the neck when taps or hopas appear. Osu is the biggest rhythm game right now, and it involves moving your cursor to circles that appear on screen and tapping them by hitting any key on your keyboard when the circles around them touches the note. Rhythm Heaven involves pressing a button at the correct time, with different mechanics and gimmicks for each stage, later combining those into a remix at the end of each column of stages. Demo is a mobile rhythm game that was the introduction to the idle style of rhythm games, which was using no set amount of keys and actually having a storyline. Friday Night Funkin' is the most recent rhythm game which brought back the 4-keys style of rhythm games with a cute cartoon style behind it. This game was so successful that it literally exploded Newgrounds once a new update was released. So, what do I think about rhythm gaming in its future? Well, considering that we are at the current peak of skill that we have ever seen, especially within the younger player base, there's games such as Project Outfox coming out soon, and games such as Friday Night Funkin' and its mods keep the community hype. I think the possibilities here are endless. I know most of you I've already spaced out or just didn't care from the very beginning, but please do consider giving some of the top players a watch. Although they may not have the numbers, they make up for it in sheer skill. And this is a community that really matters to me, so I'd love to see some new players come in and show off their skills. For now though, it's 9:50 PM and I gotta head out. See ya.